All right, this is going to be part 50, and we're going to cover a category that we've covered partially earlier in the series, but now there's so many parts of it, it's really a good idea to put them all together. And the category is one-eyed jacks, and I'm also going to cover how it leads to other things as well. And let's just begin here randomly. Let's see. This is one of the main things we're trying to portray here is we have the 289 segment azimuthal equidistant map. So when we have the 289 Ford Mustang with the 289 cubic inch engine in it, it perfectly matches the 289 segment map. So in this map we have 24 pie wedges, and each pie wedge is divided into 12 parts. So that's 288, and then you have the bullseye in the center, which is what we're looking for. It's a one-eyed jack, it's a one-eyed bullseye. So in the puzzle we have golf, tennis, ping pong. So you can have a slice in ping pong, you can have a slice in golf, you can have a slice in tennis, or you can have a slice of the azimuthal equidistant map, 288 pieces, plus the bullseye, 289. So we're going to leave this one up, because this is really one of the main things we're alluding to with the one-eyed jacks. And here's Andre Dutoth. Andre Dutoth directs Carson City. This is the movie that's playing on the television set when Wendy gets a call from Jack that he got the job. And I'm going to go into this movie in more depth when I find the actual other picture. Here's just John Wayne. He's a one-eyed jack. He stars in a lot of movies with Woody Strode. Stars in a lot of movies directed by John Ford, a one-eyed jack. Here's the movie Carson City that's playing on the television set when Wendy gets the call from Jack. And this is a direct clue to David Randolph Scott, who is the Apollo 15 astronaut that does the hammer. He does the Falcon Feather hammer drop on Apollo 15. So his name is David Randolph Scott. And it's also a clue to Randolph's and Scott's. We have Randolph Mantooth is half doctor, half firefighter. And we see the Emergency 51 lunchbox, which is the show he starred in. And we have the Scott's category. You have Miss Scott and George C. Scott, and I've made lists of these before earlier in the videos. There's lots of Scotts. You have Miss Scott as the fake Playboy model, and we have Scotsman. We have the 3M Scotch tape holds the gold foil on. We have the 3M duct tape saves Apollo 13, and we have the 3M Scotch light screen saves Stanley Kubrick in Faking the Moon missions. And of course we have a whole category of Scotsmen as well. Many of them are redhead Scotsmen. And then it ties right into the Scotch whiskey. So this is a quintessential part of our puzzle is Scott. And it carries on into other movies too. You have like in Dr. Evil, you have Scott as his son, and he's a redhead, and his real name is Seth Green, which is a color. So it fits all all the criteria. So this is the one-eyed jack connection. So this is when I started the puzzle initially. This was one of the very first categories I ran into, and I just said, you know what, this is just not a coincidence. It's just too bizarre that we're seeing all these one-eyed people in the puzzle. So Andre Dutoth is a one-eyed jack. This is a connection to, once again, Kubrick doesn't give you one little clue. This movie is about mining, and the gentleman that's running the mining operation is Randolph Scott. And he tells his boss, listen, let me back up a minute. In the movie, they're drilling a hole through a mountain. They want a passage through this mountain range without going over the mountain. So they hire this gentleman to do the digging, and he decides he wants to dig through the tunnel from both sides at the same time. And his boss thinks he's crazy. He's like, you can't do that. You'll never meet in the middle. And what he doesn't understand is the gentleman that's digging the holes, this man here, Randolph Scott, he's using telescopes and mirrors to get the exact angle to drill the tunnel, so he can drill the tunnel through the mountain at both directions at the same time. So his boss comes up to him and he tells him, I don't want you to do it this way, and da-da-da-da-da. And basically Randolph Scott tells him to pound salt up his ass, and he's going to dig his tunnel through the mountain any damn way he wants. And if he doesn't like it, he can hire somebody else. But in the movie, you realize that the only jack in town that can get a hole through this mountain is this gentleman here. So he realizes he's in the catbird seat and that his boss can't do a damn thing about it, and he's going to run this operation the way he wants to run it because he knows way more about mining than his boss does. So we have connections into mirroring, and he's using mirrors to get the correct angles to drill his hole through the tunnel. We have connections to mining and mine shafts. And so this one little clue that this movie is playing on the TV set seems inconsequential until you do a little research into it and you realize you've got a One-Eyed Jack connection, you've got a Scott connection, you've got a Randolph connection, you get a mining connection, you got a connection into using mirrors and angled mirrors to figure out which way to dig your tunnel through the mountain. So, you know, One-Eyed Jacks is a big clue set in Kubrick's puzzle because it links into so many things that you would never be able to connect to. Every director that directs movies is a One-Eyed Jack. You only put one eye up to the iris of the camera, and it only has one lens. And so this is Kubrick's NASA lens. He borrows from NASA, the special low-light lens that enables him to do all the filming in Barry Lyndon. So it's another One-Eyed Jack clue. Also, you know, Kubrick isn't just including this lens. He's including the fisheye lenses in 2001. He's including the zoom. It does multiple really long, ridiculously long zoom shots in Barry Lyndon. So he's giving you clues to this one eye, one lens. The directors are One-Eyed Jacks. Here is Snake Plissken. Once again, I want to mention we need to start thinking cross-platform here. This puzzle is way bigger than Kubrick. It's running into so many movies now, I can't even begin to decode them all. So when we have, you know, you have John Carpenter and Snake Plissken. So like I said, I haven't decoded this movie, but he lands on the Twin Towers in this movie. So, you know, it's part of the puzzle, I guarantee it. Here we have Hal, the one-eyed computer, has a one fisheye lens. So this is the picture that we see in the movie that connects us to the Minotaur. It's a man, it's half man, it's half bull. Here's your bull horns. So we start with a Minotaur, and then later on we see this same kind of mirroring, and we see two men, but in the center we see the red eye, the cycloptic eye of Hal. So these are all clues to the Minotaur allegory. They're clues to Odysseus and the Cyclops allegory. So it's a man-bear pig. It's half man, it's half Cyclops, it's half Minotaur. It's a man-bear pig. This is Bud Rosenthal. Somebody corrected me earlier in the video. He's one of the gentlemen that was involved with Kubrick. Did a lot of work with Kubrick. He was also in the Remembering Kubrick video series, and he has one eye, so he's a One-Eyed Jack. This is not Huxley. This is it's a Jungian thing. So you have your persona, and you have the shadow side and the light side, and this is a connection to a One-Eyed Jack is a person who has two faces. They have the face you see, and they have a hidden side. So Kubrick had two faces. He had the manipulator side and the wild child side. These are the two books we see in the interview with the red-headed psychologist, or doctor. So let's leave that open. Here's Barry Lyndon, and he gets one leg blown off by his half-son, and he works for a one-eyed card player. And he was in, he has the gift horse he buys for his son, but he never really checks the gift horse out. He never rides the horse. He just buys the horse. And the first time his son rides a horse, he gets crushed by the horse, and it breaks his neck. It breaks his neck right here at his neck, and he's paralyzed from the head down. And in the scene, the kid's telling him before he dies, he says, "I just want you two to love each other." And it's really hard. This movie, if you have not seen this movie, and you're a Kubrick fan, you really need to see the movie, because it's just so multifaceted, and it's really the filming is just, it looks like an impressionistic painting when you watch this movie, the way he filmed it. Here's the one-eyed azimuthal equidistant map in Mars Attacks, and he's standing on the bullseye. here's the Minotaur allegory again. One-eyed Jack Hal. Here's a one-eyed card player in Barry Lyndon, and he cheats all the wealthy people out of their money. Here's the card. This is a card clue in Dr. Strangelove. You have Ace, the bomber pilot, bomber tech. This is the Kubrick that's left on the moon on Apollo 15, the mission that launches on Stanley's birthday. And if you notice, the Kubrick has no arms. Its arms are missing. So part of this thread is one-eyed Jack, but another part of this thread is missing appendages. One arm, one leg, one arm, one leg, one eye, one ear. Here's the Odysseus and the Cyclops, and this is Odysseus, and he's blinding the giant Cyclops with the one eye. And this story itself has clues into the shepherds, because the Cyclops is a shepherd. He has sheep in his cave, and Odysseus escapes from the cave by blinding him, and then what they do is they tie themselves on the bellies of the sheep, and they escape the cave using the sheep. And this is also a connection to cannibalism. We can see, the Cyclops is a cannibal. It eats humans. And so he blinds it, and they escape with the sheep. He's a shepherd. So this is another shepherd connection. You had Wayne Brazel was a shepherd. Mac Brazel was a shepherd. Apollo is a shepherd. Jesus is a shepherd. You got Alan Shepard, and I made lists of these before. But it's shepherds is another thread. So once again, it's a very small connection to a Greek Odyssey. And, just miraculously, it fits all the facets of our puzzle. We have cannibalism. We have sheeps and shepherds. We have a one-eyed monster. We have, so. There's the one-eyed Hal, and they're working on the gyro. It shows no rotation when we do this on Earth because we don't rotate. We live on a flat plane that doesn't move. Born to Kill. So he says, you got Born to Kill on your helmet, and you wear a peace button. This is the duality of man. This goes right into Jung and the shadow side, so he's a one-eyed Jack. He's he doesn't want to kill the people, but when he's faced with a sniper firing at him, he's forced to kill. So, and he doesn't really want to. But this is what happens to people. They join the Army or the Navy or the Marines, and then next thing you know, you're in a combat zone, and you don't have a choice. You have to do it, to stay alive. So he's a one-eyed Jack. There's another painting of the one-eyed Cyclops being blinded. This is Kubrick's movie, One-Eyed Jacks. And so in the movie, Marlon Brando confronts Carl Malden. And Carl Malden was supposed to run down the mountain and get some fresh horses so they could escape with all the money, the gold they'd stolen. He was a thief. And Carl Malden runs down the mountain, and he realizes that he doesn't want to go back to save Marlon Brando. He's just going to desert him and run off with the horses and the money, which is exactly what he does. So Marlon Brando confronts Carl Malden. He calls him a one-eyed Jack, which is a two-faced person. So that's how we know we're looking for two-faced people. The one-eyed card player, probably a third of this movie is dedicated to playing cards and cheating in cards, and they develop a special NADSET card language between them, which, when we find one-eyed Jacks as a slang term for a Jack of Spades and a Jack of Hearts, we're giving clues that we're looking for NADSET card terms because they develop an entire language. And, when he asks for a glass of water, or when he asks him if he wants a glass of water, it means to get out of the game, the guy's going to beat him. When he asks him if he wants a glass of wine, it means he's going to win. So they have all these little clues. And then once again, if you haven't seen this movie, you really ought to watch it. And I've said this before, get the whole Blu-ray set, because if you're going to decode this puzzle, you can't really do it without it. And I wasted so much time trying to do it without the full movie set, and it probably cost me 3 years because I didn't want to spend the $100 on it. But here's Jack Nicholson, another playing card clue. He's a one-eyed Jack. We have the little shower head and the big shower head. Well, the little head is your dick, and you only got one of them. You got two balls, but you got one dick. So it's a one-eyed monster. Here's more one-eyed directors. I highly suspect Raoul Walsh is in it, but I haven't seen any of his stuff yet. And the reason I suspect he's in it because he shares a name with Raoul Amundsen, and it's a not a common name. Hal is a one-eyed Jack. He lies. He's got two faces. He cheats in chess. He's a cheater. I'm gonna save this for the end. You know, David Bowie does Major Tom to ground control. Well, you know, he's a one-eyed Jack. And a Bowie knife. It's a knife, so you're slicing things with a Bowie knife. This is the Kubrick. Kubrick leaves on the moon on the mission that launches on his birthday. And if you notice, it doesn't have arms. It's missing its arms. And it's bow-legged. It's been riding the horse. That looks like a clothespin. We're weaving. This is the Simpsons show. This is, you know, this show is alchemical. And here we have the Coriolis toilet. And this is the episode Bart Calls Australia is the name of it. You can find it online, but it's hard to find. But anyway, so we have the toilet. So what is the toilet doing in the one-eyed Jacks category? Well, it turns out a vortex has one eye. You know, you have a hurricane has one eye, a tornado has one eye, a Coriolis whirlpool has one eye. You know, like I said before, we need to go cross-platform. This language is being used everywhere. So here we have Austin Powers, and we have number one. So it fits our firsts or number one. You know, who's the first man to the moon and the first man to the South Pole, and the first is always repeated in this puzzle. So you have number one. Okay, this is so clever because in the first Star Trek, starring Gene Roddenberry's wife, the only Star Trek episode Gene Roddenberry writes, The Cage, his wife plays number one. So in this movie, you have Rob Lowe plays number one, and then you have, oh God, I can't even think, Wagner plays number one, and then there's a number two. So a number one, if somebody says, I got to go number one, it's pee. When somebody says, I got to go number two, it's poop. So it's a clue into one eyes, it's a clue into firsts, number one, and it's a clue into number one and number two, which is pee and poop. So, you know, like I said, this language is being used by more than one director. Here's Jackie Lamb. He's a one-eyed Jack. He has one glass eye. And his last name is a palindrome for male. And a male rabbit is a Jack. And his real name is Billy Scott, S-C-O-T-T. So he fits the Scott's category. He fits the Billy's category, Billie Jean King, Billy the Kid, Billy is a goat. He fits the Jack's category. His name is Jack. His stage performer name is Jack, and he has one eye. So, you know, Jack Elam is a great clue. Here's Jack Nicholson doing the two-eyed Jack thing. This is a playing card clue from the movie The Shining. We got the one-eyed card player and Barry Lyndon. We have Fall's wife, the woman with one leg. I think this is a sham marriage just to pull off this joke, but I can't really prove that. And I think she was in, I don't know if she was in Playboy. I can't find her in Playboy, but she was in some girly magazine, so she's a bunny. And she was a model, I believe, as well, a one-legged model. Here we have Kubrick's one-eyed fisheye lens that he uses in 2001. This is a clue to the NASA fisheyes that they used to fake the globe. And it's also a clue to his lenses, you know. So he has the low light lens, and he has the fisheye lens, and he has the super zoom lens, and you know he has his lenses are all on display in a museum under glass cases, just like the fisheye lens that we see in The Shining. That's in the fisheye, in the fossilized fish. A telescope on a rifle. You close one eye and you put your other eye up to the telescope. So you're a one-eyed Jack when you're shooting. So this is a recreation after the Kennedy assassination. They did this film. It's a recreation of the murder, and they give you the cross eyes in this as well. And this is Oswald's, you know, the lone nut. Lone is one, uni, mono. Once again, we got to go cross-platform. This movie is alchemical. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to go into that later. Here's a scene I wanted to mention. in One-Eyed Jacks, the movie, starring Brando, he breaks the leg off a chair, and he uses the chair from the leg to pull this desk close enough so he can get his hands on this little Derringer, double barrel Derringer. So this is a connection to when we go to The Shining, we see the chair by the bloody twins is missing one leg. So that's a connection to this movie, One-Eyed Jacks. And chairs. We're using chairs. Here's John Ford. He does a lot of movies with Woody Strode, the high jumper, UCLA high jumper. So he's the first black professional football player. He is the king of Hawaii. He marries the queen of Hawaii. He is in Kubrick's movie Spartacus. He has Neptune's trident. And what is the other one? I can't even remember the other one. So he's connected into our puzzle 20 different ways. So we have a color is black. He's the first black. We have he's a high jumper. So we have Operation High Jump, long jump with Admiral Byrd. He's the first black player, professional football player. So we have a connection to ball category. So like I said, all these categories are woven together. So and then he does all his movies with this gentleman. So when we find the Woody Strode hat in The Thing from One-Eyed Jack, John Carpenter, we know what we're talking about. We're talking about Bird's Operation High Jump. Danny, the only organized game Danny plays in the entire movie The Shining is darts. He plays cars, but that's not really an organized game. And darts, we have the dartboard with the one bullseye. Here's the one-eyed card player in Buried Linden. Here's the Kubrick, left by Kubrick on the moon, and it's called Fallen Astronaut. So we had one small step. We have hippity hoppity, hop, leap, bunny hop, Dennis Hopper. One small step, one giant leap, long jumper, Jackie Robinson, high jumper, Woody Strode, moonwalker, Johnny Walker. So it's a theme. So we have all these walk, run, blah, blah. So this one isn't walking. This is fallen astronaut. So you have Christopher Walken as well. So it's the fallen astronaut. It fits right into our puzzle with walk, step, hop, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Blade Runner, Easy Rider. So Tom Cruise. So they're all modes of transportation. And so you can crawl. You have the NASA crawler. But if you can't even crawl, you're fallen. You can't get up. You're the dead astronauts that he left the plaque. This is a card, by the way. Looks like a playing card. So the little fallen astronaut had no arms. He's missing appendages. So here we have the one-eyed bullseye UN map with 33 segments. And of course it has the Apollo's attribute, the laurel corona surrounding it. This represents Antarctica. If you notice, this map doesn't have any details of Antarctica on it at all, because this laurel corona is what represents that. This is the area of land that surrounds you. Excuse me. Here's the Danny's one bullseye dartboard. He plays darts. We have the 13 poster back here. And this is another thing that I mentioned earlier in the puzzle, and I wanted to flesh it out a little. This goes into the depths of that I went through to solve this thing. There's hidden symmetry all over this movie, and I'll give you an example of it. This photo that's in this image right here is twinned. Here's a twin of it right here. So there's two of these. It's mirrored. So we have mirrored hidden symmetry here. And if you look here, we see this is mirrored. This photo is mirrored here. And by the way, this mirroring that I'm pointing out right here, we only see this once. After this, when you see these pictures, they're not mirrored like this anymore. So you either find it or you don't find it. And the only way you find this is when you look at every image in the movie, and that's how we did this. So we got a mirroring here, we got mirroring here, and we got mirroring right here. There's another duplicate. So there's hidden symmetry in this. And this room and this wall is very alchemical. We have 24 photographs on this side of the wall. If I had the full picture of it, on the other side of the wall, this is mirrored again. And also the speaker is mirrored on the other side of the wall. And one side of the wall we have one of the states, Colorado. On the other side of the wall we have the 50 states. So this is one of the clues to Betsy Ross, the first flag, July 4th. And she's born on 1/1, Danny's birthday, New Year's Day. So Jack reads the New Year's issue of Playgirl. So we're given New Year's several different ways, and it's because we're given Salinger's birthday, Danny's birthday, Betsy Ross's birthday, and a holiday, all in one clue. So this room we have 24 frames here, and on the other side of the room we have 24 frames. And in the middle of these we have a clock, which you can't really see the whole thing, but there's a clock. There's one large photograph and 3 small photographs. And I think what we're being given here is the alchemy on how to reproduce the hidden movie. These represent frames of the movie, and that's why they're identical, because they're only 1/24th of a second apart from each other. And the speaker represents the stereo soundtrack that he hid in the movie. And we have the flag-covered wagon, and Kennedy's U.S. flag-covered wagon. So this is a clue to the flags we're using. And also we have the corona shape, just like the corona borealis, and the Shea Stadium shape. And so this is a very alchemical thing when you find this in the movie. And like I said, when you see these photographs later, they're not mirrored like this. So you see this for a split second, and if you're not an obsessed fan like me, you would never notice it. So let's close this out. So it's a one-eyed bullseye right here. You saw this John Ford, the one-eyed Jack. Here's the one-eyed Jack playing card allegory. So you have a one-eyed Jack of hearts, you get a one-eyed Jack of spades, and you get a one-eyed king. Those are the only 3 one-eyed cards in the whole deck. One-eyed card player. C-3PO has had his leg replaced, so he at one point was a one-legged robot who had to be repaired. Wendy Elkine, Walter Carlos, he is as the Jungian, he's got the shadow and the hidden side and the light side, so he changes, he becomes transgender. Luke loses one arm. This is a good one. I showed it earlier in the series. A lot of these are from early in the series. This is a fossilized fish with one fisheye lens stuck in one of its eye sockets. So this is a one fisheye lens clue. And it's a one-eyed fish. This is Douglas Trumbull. He uses a fisheye lens to project a moonscape on a domed building. So this is one of our domed. We live in a dome. And another fisheye clue. And he jumps right from this job here, where he's projecting moonscapes on a domed building, to faking the NASA moon landings, I believe. That's my guess. I believe he worked with Kubrick on that. I could be wrong, but. And this is where we see the Ford Falcon for the first time. We see all the NASA hardware for the first time, and yada, yada, yada. So it was a one fisheye lens projection. This is the July 4th ball. This is the birthday of our country. So, we're looking for birthdays. And this is also the Lou Gehrig's clue. July 4th is the date Lou Gehrig gives his first, only, and last speech, luckiest man in the world. Iron Horse. Here's Kubrick's fisheye lens. It's a one-eyed Jack lens, because the camera only has one lens. The needle only has one eye, and we're weaving. You got Sigourney Weaver, and you got Quilty, and the Terrier. So there's Danny and the one-eyed bullseye. The telescope is a one-eyed Jack. John Ford. I forget when I put that in there. Here's Odysseus and the Cyclops. So Odysseus blinds the Cyclops, and then they sneak out of the cave using the sheep. Now, before I go through the rest of this list, one of the anomalies that we run into in this puzzle is Tycho is not a one-eyed Jack. He's a no-nose man. So we're given pairs of things. We're making pairs and triplets. So you're born with 2 eyes. You're born with 2 arms. You're born with 2 legs. You're born with 2 ears. So we have Van Gogh, the one-ear man. We have the one-ear man in the final shot. The photograph at the end of the movie Shining, there's one guy that has one ear. But you only have one nose. You only have one mouth, you only have one dick, and you only have one anus. So out of all these things, there's only one of them that's an eye. It's your brown eye. And so we have all the toilets and the Coriolis and the Flushing, New York, and flushed out your headgear, new guy. This is a slaughter. And this is one of Kubrick's clues to the toilets and the zero-G toilet. And so it's a Coriolis clue. It's a clue to all the moon landings were bullshit, and it's all a crock of shit. And it's a clue to Tycho, the no-nose man. And, of course, he has a twin, which is Michael Jackson, the other no-nose man, the last moonwalker. So we built a pair there. This is a new one. You're going to like this one. And it's weak right now, but it's strong enough where I think I'm going to find the rest of the puzzle. So this gentleman right here, his name is Cord Meyer. And Cord Meyer was in the war, World War II, and he lost one of his eyes in the war. He wears a glass eye. And you used to be able to find a picture of Cord Meyer with an eye patch on, but apparently that's no longer around. It's very hard to find on the internet now. But so Cord Meyer was a one-eyed Jack. He only had one eye, lost it in the war. Cord Meyer was married to this woman here, Mary Pinchot. I forget the rest of her name. But anyway, so he's married to her, madly in love with this woman. And the problem with this whole situation right here was Mary was having an affair with JFK. And at some point in time, Cord Meyer found out about the affair, and he was none too happy about it. But there wasn't really a lot he could do because the leader of the free world was banging his wife, so you can't really go to JFK and say, listen, dude, she's my wife. He's not going to listen to you. And apparently she was infatuated enough where she didn't really want to stop the relationship either. So Cord Meyer had a huge heart-on. He was not happy with JFK at all. So when E. Howard Hunt does his deathbed confession, he talks about that the person they put in charge of the JFK assassination was Cord Meyer. And the choice is very logical because Cord Meyer wanted to kill JFK himself. He hated the man. He just loathed him. And it's not too hard to understand why he loathed him. He was, he was banging his wife. And so she gets killed, of course, This is an ongoing theme with JFK. He bangs these women, and then when he gets tired of them or they get too dangerous, he has them killed. So she's murdered, and so Cord Meyer is mentioned by E. Howard Hunt in his deathbed confession that he was put in charge of the organization to get this project done to kill JFK, and he's a one-eyed Jack. So like I said, I don't have direct connections from Kubrick's puzzle yet, but his name is Cord, so it's a thread. It's a Cord Meyer. He's a one-eyed Jack. His wife is murdered by JFK. She's banging him. So it's a good one, it's a clever one. And like I said, it's weak right now, but I think in the weeks to come, I'm going to find the connections to it. And here's his gravestone. He was a Marine. This is the ball hair thing. Again, I wanted to show that. She was the first Playboy, she was the first black love interest in a James Bond movie. She's a Playboy bunny. I can't connect Sammy Davis Jr. yet, but I suspect he's in it. He was part of the Rat Pack, and Sinatra's in the movie The Manchurian Candidate, and he's a Sammy. So we have Samuel Robotham and Samuel Adams the beer, and he's a performer and a singer. So this is weak, but I suspect he's in the puzzle. This is Apollo 15. 33% of the parachutes fail. So it's 1 out of 3. One man stays in the capsule. The other 2 land. 2 out of 3. 33%. Here's Kubrick's one eyes. He gives you this blinking eye in 2001. It's one single eye. There's the one-eyed Bell video phone. This is the first time we see it. So it's a one-eyed Jack, but it's the first man that lands on the moon, the first man to the South Pole, the first Bell video phone that's ever demonstrated, the first song sung by an IBM computer. This reminds me of the ball heads that they wear, the ball caps they wear in 2001: A Space Odyssey. So it's a baseball clue. In 2001: A Space Odyssey, when you see the women with the ball caps, it's a baseball clue. And also it's a ball head clue. The ballers. This is the first unibody car ever. We see it at the 1964 World's Fair. It's a sister car to the Falcon. So you have the Falcon feather drop, and you have the James Irwin as a falconer, and we have the Falcon Lem is the name of the Apollo 15. So here's the gin chairs. We're using chairs in our allegory. And also, Conrad Hilton is the most famous Corona, New Mexico resident. And we have one of the astronauts' last name is Conrad. So we have the Hilton Space Station. We have Conrad Hilton. We have an astronaut named Conrad, Pete Conrad. And then we have the most famous Corona, New Mexico resident was Conrad Hilton. And we have the Millennium Falcon and the Millennium Hilton. Okay, here we have the cage, and this is Captain Pike, and he has no arms, no legs. He's badly burned in the face. All he can do now is push a button, yes and no. That's all he can do. So this is an allegory to eugenics, and we're slowly being whittled down, and the clock is ticking. It's midnight, and the stars in you. And we need to flush our headgear out, new guy, because it's a slaughter. So here we have another cross-pollination to other movies. So we have Needles in Back to the Future, and he wants to race Marty. And he's like, what are you, chicken? So we got the bird. And he's a red hot chili pepper, so we got the pepper. And he plays Needles, the one-eyed needle. It's One-Eyed Jack. This is another smoking clue, and Barry Lyndon, she goes, oh, Barry Redmond, will you please put out the pipe? And he takes a big drag off the pipe, and he blows the smoke in her face. So it's another, with the smoke, this fire. This is the theme of dueling. Once again, we're not talking about One-Eyed Jack. These are just things I added on the end of this video. The theme of dueling. This is Barry's father. He dies in a duel. Barry loses his leg in a duel. Here's Woody Strode, the first black professional football player. He's a UCLA high jumper. And his teammate, Jackie Robinson, number 42, which is a holiday, Jackie Robinson Day, April 15th. He's the long jumper, and they're on the same team. So you have a pair of black triathletes. This is another one clue. They don't actually put a numeral on the Apollo 1 capsule. They spell the word right out, 1. So, it's one small step, one giant leap. TMA-1, the first Bell video phone, the first computer, the first man to the South Pole. Peter Falk, I believe, is in the puzzle. I can't prove it yet. I don't have the full link, but he's a detective. He's a one-eyed Jack, and he's going to be the clue to Falklands. So we have Neverland and Graceland and Marie Byrd Land and Ireland, England, Wonderland, and Falkland. Here's Needles. He's a one-eyed Jack, and he's a chili pepper. And he's a musician, one of Apollo's attributes. And he's a chili pepper. So, he fits just too many things. And that's interesting. So you have Capricorn 1, once again it's a 1. It's always 1, 1, 1. It's a zodiac. This is a direct connection to the fake moon missions. Twin Pines, the Lone Pines. It's another ball hair clue. This is when I talked earlier about how some of the projections are actually shaped in a butterfly shape. So we have the butterfly diorama in The Shining. And so you have the Peters projection, and you have the Moore projection, and you have the Robinson projection, and Danny's born on 1/1, New Year's Day. He's holding up one finger, and it's Salinger's birthday, and it's happy birthday, and it's mirrored. This is very clever. Let's go into Cheryl Lee. This is another hairball clue. And Here's the ball cap clues. Pan Am ball caps. Andre Dutoth, the one-eyed azimuthal equidistant projection. So Cheryl Lee is in. She plays Laura Palmer, and she's in Twin Peaks. So in the movie Twin Peaks, we have the One-Eyed Jack's bar, which I have a picture of it here somewhere. Here it is. So Twin Peaks, this is once again, we're in cross-pollination now. So in Twin Peaks, we have the One-Eyed Jack's bar. She plays Laura Palmer. She shares a birthday with Nicholson, which is World Day, or Earth Day, I'm sorry. And so Earth Day is the day that the World's Fair opens in Corona Flushing, Queens. It's Jack Nicholson's birthday. It's Oppenheimer's birthday. It's Nicholson's death day. Or I'm sorry, it's Nixon's death day. And it's Cheryl Lee's birthday. So Cheryl Lee is born on Earth Day. So we go to Twin Peaks. We got the One-Eyed Jack's bar. She plays a homecoming queen. So, you know, if you can't see Twin Peaks is alchemical with this many clues, and of course she's in the movie Vampires with John Carpenter, another One-Eyed Jack. He's already in our puzzle, remember? Because the first day at the Overlook is Halloween, and Jamie Lee Curtis stars in Halloween. So John Carpenter is already one of our known One-Eyed Jack directors. And, you know, he looks through the one lens when he's filming. And so she's in Vampires, and we got James Woods in it. So he fits right in our puzzle. Woods is a class of golf clubs, and in the movie he says, Padre, did you get wood when you killed that vampire? And then Padre responds with mahogany, teak, and ebony. So, you know, we have a category of woods in our puzzle already. We have the cards category in our puzzle already. We've got, this date is already a Nexus date. It's Jack Nicholson's birthday. It's Earth Day. And we're talking about One-Eyed Jacks here. So we have the azimuthal equidistant projection, which is really the flat plane we live on. It's not an Earth. So that covers, you know, we have David Lynch connections now, direct allegorical connections to David Lynch. So she plays Laura Palmer, the homecoming queen. So she's the queen. It's One-Eyed Jacks. It's Twin Peaks. Some of the scenes in Twin Peaks are filmed in the Ennis House, which is Frank Lloyd Wright's architecture. He designs the Ennis House. The Ennis House is actually Harrison Ford's apartment in Blade Runner. So, you know, we're coming around full circle with these clues. This gentleman is Leo Fender. He's a One-Eyed Jack. He only has one eye. And he doesn't make the first guitar, but I believe he's in our puzzle, and he's going to be in our puzzle because we have Fred Hayes, one of the astronauts, and we have Jimi Hendrix. Jimmy's in our puzzle because we have Fred Hayes, Purple Haze, and he plays a Stratocaster left-handed. But this is weak right now. But we do have Billy Gibson, the old lady that's in the bathtub, and we have Gibson guitars and the log guitar. So I'm working on this category. I think he's involved, but it's weak so far. And what else do we have in here? It didn't seem like it opened all the pictures. In the final shot, let's open this up. There's a one-eared man in here. This gentleman has one ear. So we had the Van Gogh book that Nicole was wrapping the one-ear man. And I think that's it for the whole thing. Let me check again, see if I missed anything. No, that's pretty much all the One-Eyed Jack clues. So when I first started working on the puzzle, this category was one of the very first that I noticed, and I was just like, there was too many One-Eyed Jacks in it to be coincidence. And that's how this puzzle works. And you find threads of things that are bizarre that repeat themselves. And that's the end of 50, and have a great day, guys. And, you know, there's some shenanigans going on. That's all I'm going to say. Google is, you know, when you search for videos 46, 47, and 48, they just don't show up in Google. So that's bizarre, and I don't know what to do about it. But you know, however vast the darkness, we must provide our own light. I will make these videos until they pry this microphone from my mouth. You know what I'm saying? So you guys have a great evening, and that's it.